We are live. Thanks for joining me today, Adam Rocke. And first of all, let me just start out. Your name is just made for a military officer, Adam Rocke. So thanks for being here today. Appreciate your time.
It's my honor, Joe. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me. And I know I'm cutting your intro off, but I will say this. We'll get to that. I was enlisted. I was in basic training, and the drill sergeant used to call me Sergeant Rocke. So he nicknamed me already in basic training as a private, Sergeant Rocke, after the comic book hero. So
That's
the
right.
Sergeant Rocke comic book. So as soon as I got yelled at and told me to get off the bus, and he saw my name tape, and he said, "You're now nicknamed Sergeant Rocke."
That's awesome. Well, good. Well, I didn't know that about you. So give everybody your background. Where you're from, why the Army, and kind of your journey to where you are today.
Yeah, Joe, thank you so much. Again, a pleasure to do this and to do it with you, Joe, who I think so highly of, not only your time in uniform and what you're doing now for Microsoft, but our personal friendship, all right? And we can chat about that. But, if we go to another Waffle House together, then it'll be a great day. So I'm honored to do this with you. So really, Joe, this story of service for me and my family dates back a very long time. To World War I, as a matter of fact. My great uncle Saul was a colonel in the Army. He served in World War I. As you and I have talked before, my father was a Marine who fought on Iwo Jima. He was one of the original Marine Raiders. He's airborne. I mean, I'm just very proud of my dad. He earned a Silver Star and a Purple Heart on the Battle of Iwo Jima, and a Purple Heart out there in the Marshall Islands as well. And he passed away when I was in combat. But, he was a proud Marine like yourself, and just miss him dearly. But continue on. Then my grandfather served in the New York National Guard, my uncle in the Korean War in Porkchop Hill. And then my brother, Mark, his retired colonel as well, was serving in the 82nd and then into the Rangers in 2nd and 75th. And that's when I was in high school and said, I want to be like you. I want to jump out of airplanes. I want to be an airborne ranger. I'm not ready to go to college, and this is what I want to do. So I raised my right hand and I volunteered. As a matter of fact, my brother drove all the way down. My brother Mark drove down from Fort Bragg. He was a company commander in the 82nd at the time, and he swore me in at the MEP station. How's that? So it was a great day, great story. We still reminisce about that time today. They asked him when he came, they said, "Captain, do you want to administer the oath?" And he administered the oath to not just me, to all these privates. It was kind of cool, or all these new recruits. It was kind of cool.
What town did you grow up in?
So I grew up born in Jersey, moved to New York, and then migrated to Florida and joined the Army out of Florida. So I guess if for anyone listening, be a little jealous. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. How's that? In the 80s, right? That's my high school year. So it was a spring break heaven. And
you probably saw me going down the street at some point. I did a couple of spring breaks in Fort Lauderdale.
You and everybody else that I have become friends with has spent the same time. So we probably ran into each other at some of the local establishments at that point in time. But it was a great growing up there, and but I was ready to do something different. So said I wanted to be infantry. I knew what I wanted to do is be all I can be, and they snatched me up and sent me to the old guard in Washington D.C. right here where I live now, right in the 3rd U.S. Infantry. I was tall, I was thin, I had the aptitude, and I said I would give it a shot, and I really enjoyed it. And to this day, Joe, as you well know, your friends for life are the ones that you make in the military. And I am still dear friends with the guys that were in my squad in 1983 in the old guard to this day. Almost like children sometimes. We chat on nowadays on texting and whatnot, but they've gone on to do very well in their lives, and we still maintain contact. So friends for life there. But I left the service active duty intentionally to go to college, to get a degree, and started off at the University of Florida. I had a brother and sister that was attending there, and I said, that's where I want to go. And I went there. They graduated, and I migrated back down to my house. And so I got my commission for the University of Miami down in Miami, Florida. and my degree from Florida International University through ROTC at the time. Joined, in 1990, and off I went to the infantry officer basic course at Fort Benning, and the rest is really history. A little bit about that, I was an infantryman, went to Ranger School. First assignment was in Korea. That was probably one of the best assignments I ever had, Joe, as a young lieutenant in Korea with a salty old platoon sergeant from the Ranger Regiment, and who just shaped me and molded me. I was the last platoon leader ever to guard the South Barrier fence on the demilitarized zone. So when we turned that over to the Rocke Army, so that was the high. I mean, that was real deal for 90 days of live patrols, patrolling in the DMZ, putting out Claymore mines and looking for North Koreans. That was a great time. And those other lieutenants in my company, I'm still friends with those guys today. And it was just it was a lot of fun, but it helped develop me. And I said, always said, like I said earlier, I wanted to be an airborne ranger, and perhaps following my brother's footsteps. I volunteered to go to the Ranger Regiment, 75th Ranger Regiment, and I was accepted, and I was a platoon leader in the 2nd Ranger Battalion at Fort Lewis, Washington at the time, which you and I know is Joint Base Lewis McChord now. Mm-hmm. And almost the rest is history. I spent a lot of time there. So Ranger time there, went on to the 82nd Airborne and commanded a airborne rifle company in the 1st of the 325, Charlie Company, the 1st of the 325, and you kind of see the C-130 behind me. I'm proud of that. And then back to the Ranger Battalion under, it was then Colonel Stan McChrystal, who you probably all have heard of. He was the regimental commander, and said, Adam, I'm going to send you back to the 2nd Ranger Battalion. And it wasn't really because of anything I did. It's because my wife, Sally, was from there, and that's where we met. And he said, because Sally's from Fort Lewis, we're going to send you both back there. So it was a blessing for us to go back there. Got to serve there through the rank of major as a company commander in L&O in the 75th, and then moved on to the Commanding General Staff College, and then back to Fort Lewis because they stood up this concept called the Stryker Brigade combat team. It was this new innovative approach to infantry with the 8-wheeled Stryker variant vehicle. And really, I was in the 1st Battalion to really test that concept as its operations officer, along with our very dear friend Chuck Hodges, right? So yeah. Chuck and I served together. I don't know if you knew this, but so Chuck and I was the S3 operations officer. I took over for Chuck. Chuck pleaded up to be my XO, executive officer of the battalion. And we deployed to combat, Chuck and I together, and we went to Kuwait and then drove that battalion all the way north to Mosul. And in 2003, 2004, we fought hard in Mosul, Chuck and I together, side by side, and then ended up sharing a couple rooms together down in this little outpost on the Tigris River. Chuck and I have some fond memories of that. Many interesting nights there, but and then I stayed there, and then I fleeted up to be the brigade operations officer and redeployed Joe to Iraq again in 2006 and 2007 as the operations officer under a great leader, Colonel Steve Townsend, who's now 4-star AFRICOM commander, who taught me a lot about leadership and taking care of people and how to fight, frankly. And then we redeployed back, and I got to be a battalion commander in the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Infantry Regiment. Once again, along with my battle bud Chuck in the same brigade, if you can believe that. Chuck was a sister battalion commander of mine in the same brigade, 3rd Stryker Brigade combat team, and we deployed again to Iraq. So, I mean, it got the best. There was about 4 or 5 years that, maybe a little bit longer, but that the Army got the best of me, the unit did, and then I gave it all I had. And I was, I deployed just really towards the Iranian border in this volatile area called Muqtadiya. And Chuck's boundary bordered up against mine, and we used to communicate every day about the bad guys that were leaving his area, coming to mine, or bad guys leaving my area, go to his. Just a lot of fun with Chuck, and a lot of shared hardships, as you can imagine. And then I was very fortunate to get to go to the War College, and then actually the Joint Staff and then the War College, and then where I ended up, where we have all met at the Director of Soldier for Life, working for the Chief of Staff of the Army, Generals Odierno, and then Milley, who's now the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. So that's really my career in a nutshell. And along the way at Soldier for Life, I was honored to go to Afghanistan twice as a senior advisor to do a reintegration of wounded warriors back over there. A nonprofit called Troops First does a reintegration of wounded warriors back onto the battlefield, and I was honored on a couple of occasions to escort those guys as well to both to Afghanistan. So, what a neat adventure. But I'm retired now.
Awesome. Yeah, and I want to get back to the wounded warrior piece here in a minute. So, and you mentioned it kind of briefly earlier. So you started your family being at a Fort Lewis, and deep ties to here through your spouse, right? Right,
exactly. So, you know, as a matter of fact, Sally and I met out there. It's a funny story. I said I'm going to be a lieutenant, and that's the only thing I want to do. I was going to be in charge of a platoon of Rangers. And lo and behold, the person who gave me the keys to my first apartment when I drove there was a little Sally Barber. And Sally Barber, next thing you know, we started courting and dating, and I'm married. And 27 years later, and 4 kids, we're still together. So that was destined to be, I guess, right?
Funny how that happens. You were destined to be told yourself you're going to be a platoon commander, and then you fell right into to your wife of 27 years. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Well, good. So I want to talk about a couple things. So all this combat time, and just to hear that you and Chuck Hodges were that close during this whole time. I don't know if it's a bit dangerous or not, but I know it's a good two great individuals that I've gotten to know, and proud to be close to you all. So, but when we're kind of active duty and in the fight and observing it from that perspective, and I look at it kind of differently now, because I'm kind of wondering, how long can we keep doing this, and how long can we be in Afghanistan or Iraq and just continuing to, I don't know, just kind of be there and monitor the situation. It seems to be just a difficult situation.
Yeah, it is a difficult situation, and Joe, I'm not anywhere close to the flagpole to know what the decisions are meaning, but I will tell you this, that as you heard from my story and Chuck's and many others who, and you included, have given their blood, sweat, and tears, and lost men and women in combat in both of these places. When I was there, it was all about winning. It was about how can I make a stable environment and a democracy of some sort for that country of Iraq and both Afghanistan, and I wish them the best of luck. And I thought that there was a reason for me being there, and to this day I still believe in our brigade lost nearly 70 people, and it's sad, but they did not die in vain. We made a difference, and the political powers above me have decided to draw down the forces and to withdraw out of both of those places right there. I'm sure we'll still maintain some sort of presence and keep some pressure on there. But in my mind, it was worth it, and it still is to this day. And I know they're making some adjustments in Afghanistan right now as well. But I have to believe that to do it in the best interest of our country. But our men and women who fought over there did it for democracy and for the freedoms that we hold true here in America.
Yeah, I agree completely on that. And you can look at it, we're still in Japan, and we're still in Germany, and we're still in Korea over many, many years, and it's for a reason. And I think about it in this way as well, as, there's little girls going to school now in Afghanistan because of the work of what the U.S. military has done, which is just, much to be proud of. So, well, let's move on from there. So,
I'm sorry, but that ironically, that picture above on my left shoulder, maybe you're right, is exactly what you just talked about. That's me, and it wasn't always about fighting. It was about bringing stability. So how do you bring stability to a country like that? Right there was about establishing a school and providing desks and books and materials for that little village that we had in Muqtadiya, and bringing some sort of normalcy to them. So I'm proud of that picture right there, because that's symbolic of not just the fighting and the nastiness that goes on in combat, but there's a lot of good that we've done.
Yeah, right on. Because people don't realize how much sort of peacekeeping and security cooperation that the U.S. military does every day. And in fact, that's where I did most of my work the last few years that I spent on active duty was in the peacekeeping realm and then in the security cooperation realm with countries that were very interested in being our partners moving
Right.
forward from where they were previously. So, well, great. Well, hey, I wanted to get to your time. You mentioned earlier you went to the Soldier for Life
Right.
program and led that as a colonel and did a lot of great work there. So was that a new command and what was the kind of purpose of it? Where were you making an impact? And then I want to also talk a little bit about sort of the difficulties of the wounded warrior population and how how the services have really kind of stepped up to help them transition to life outside of the military as well.
Sure. Once a soldier, always a soldier for life. We really, that is the moniker, and shamelessly, we stole the concept from the Marines. Honestly, you just teed that up on purpose, I think, but we took that from the Marine Corps. You have the Marine for Life office, you have the model Marine for Life, and we saw that you were onto something. And I'll talk about the models that are a little bit differently, but the intent is still there. In 2011, we had been sustained combat for a very long period of time, a number of years, and I had worked for the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Ray Odierno, numerous times before as a 2-star in '03 and in Samara, where Chuck and I were at as well. Then again when he was a 3-star in Iraq, and then again when he was the 4-star in Iraq. So we had a history of following each other, finding each other in combat. And then he stood up this office called Soldier for Life, and the reason they stood this up is because he saw that there was a large population of those that were transitioning. There were on unemployment. Unemployment was an all-time high in 2011. And to coincide with the unemployment, Joe, with the other faults, suicide level were incredibly high. Homelessness rate was for our veterans was incredibly high. Divorce rates, the drug and alcohol use. So all of those things were exacerbated in his mind by meaningful employment. Now there are other reasons behind it, but we believe that the if you had meaningful employment, that was the base. Then hopefully the other things would seem to fall in place. So he wanted to do something as meaningful as he could for those getting ready to transition. The very few that raised their right hand, that deployed to combat like you and I and the host of other people that are listening here, right, and wanted to provide for them back in their communities and knew that employers wanted to help. It wasn't out of pity. They recognized the talents. We had to basically connect them together and explain what those talents were. But so he created this office to do that. He could only take so many business cards from corporate leadership. He needed somebody, a colonel, if you will, in this case, to turn to and say, Adam, please exploit this. JP Morgan Chase has an initiative and I want you to partner with it. And I want to see how we can place our young servicemen and women into the financial institutions through JP Morgan Chase as an example, or to Microsoft or Star Wars. The list of companies go on at that time that recognized their talent. So we stood this up. Back to the point about the Marine for Life, we really did model a little bit around what you did. You used reservists, you used them out there on a part-time basis. They're already forward. We decided to do it a little bit differently, to hunker down into the Pentagon Crystal City area right there with a series of a director, a colonel that was a director, and some regional departments with some lieutenant colonels and some majors, some employment, some health and wellness, some education, some social media to kind of brand this thing a little bit and to go from there. But our mission was to connect those transitioning service members and those military spouses with meaningful employment, continued education, and to continue the health and wellness of them, right? So the 3 pillars there. And the base was always the employment, because we felt that if you had a triangle and the base was employment, the other 2 would seem to fall in place. So that's really what we did. We created a campaign plan like any good organization does, right? And we had metrics that we we had. We made lots of connections inside the building, not only in the Army, which is great. It's about 50% of the services, but we made great connections with all the other services, and we worked really well together. The Marine Corps and I, and Marine for Life, worked hand in hand, and they're still symbiotic today. And as you can see, I did that for 4 years because I felt that was my passion, and that's what I wanted to do. And but the time was right to retire and continue that passion. But Soldier for Life has made an impact, and I proudly wear the lapel pin. I have the sticker on my car, the same thing that Marines do. But I think we have changed the culture and the mentality that you can continue to serve. We'll help you transition out, but you can continue to serve outside of uniform in some capacity in your communities as a teacher, a coach, a mentor, a leader, a civic asset with meaningful employment.
Also, yeah, I was part of the Marine for Life program, so I actually opened up our office, so to speak, in South Florida. I was living in the actually in Miami, and then I moved up to Hollywood, Florida, and built that Marine for Life employer network in South Florida, all the way through those three kind of South Florida counties, Miami-Dade, Broward, and then up to Palm Beach County as well. So that was enjoyable work, connecting with a lot of organizations and employers that were supporting Marines when they came back to that community. And that was kind of in the beginning of the Marine for Life program. I stayed with them for just a couple of years, but an individual that I was close to in the Marine Corps had brought me in, and he was doing it in Southern California. And then we connected to the headquarters up at Quantico that was managing the program across the U.S. So yeah, it was great. And then seeing how all the services are kind of doing it in their own way. I think the Army you guys did it a bit different than we did, not going through the reserve component. And but we always connected with the local active duty units as well, and the reserve units, and then all the recruiting stations. So we were there kind of briefing all the recruiters that were out there recruiting for the Marine Corps, and letting them know that these recruits were going to be taken care of all the way through from boot camp to when they leave their active duty service as well. So I really enjoyed that time in the Marine for Life organization. And
matter of fact, I went to high school in Hollywood.
Yeah,
that's it. So you're in a good neighborhood.
Yeah, I liked it down there in South Florida. It's a different world. I mean, it's kind of it's very unique. But like most places in the U.S., it kind of has its own unique culture. And then you get down in the Miami-Dade, where it's very kind of Spanish speaking and has that whole culture of.
I'm sure your ability to speak Spanish fluently came in handy, though, right, Joe?
Sí, hablo español muy bien, y en este lugar. Yeah, it came in handy big time, because you meet some people down there and they speak little English too, so as you know. But well, good. So you spent that time at Soldier for Life, and let's touch a little bit on the Wounded Warrior, because the Army had also set up your Warrior Transition Battalion. So talk a little bit about that, because I was always kind of just very impressed on how the Army kind of did this. Marine Corps had its own way of doing it, and it kind of fell under the same umbrella of Marine for Life, was what we did with our Wounded Warrior. We had the two battalions, East and West, and the regiment up in Quantico. But talk a little bit about how the Army kind of stood up their Wounded Warrior, I think they call the Warrior Transition Program.
That's right, we sure did. So under the Soldier for Life umbrella, Wounded Warriors was clearly a population that I advocated for at every opportunity I could. But we had the Wounded Warriors had a specific policy, a little bit different than some of the other service members that were basically transitioning out. There were certain things in place specific to those. If you were qualified as a Wounded Warrior, we had our Wounded Warrior Transition Command set up with another colonel like mine under then it was the Human Resources Command, and they did certain things, but the mantra is the same. How do we help the Wounded Warriors as best we possibly can, and their caregivers, right, with smooth transition, meaningful employment, health and wellness, a lifestyle that they could sustain and be proud of, when they transition out of the military, in my case, out of the Army. So, I mean, we'll get to VSOs, but I mean, I'm gratefully indebted to VSOs like ourselves, Hiring Our Heroes, which never forgets about the Wounded Warrior population, but also the Wounded Warrior Project and many of those that go on, because they help fill a necessary gap, right, Joe? They help fill a necessary gap that is there, that helps those. I mean, back to the Troops First Foundation, which I told you about, does the reintegration of the Wounded Warriors. You know, one of the other things they've done is they partnered with a gentleman from your neck of the woods, Silicon Medal of Honor recipient Leroy Petrie. They created the Petrie Village. It's 7 homes out here at Bethesda, so that are transient homes for those Wounded Warriors that can stay in there rent-free for 2 years. I mean, they could extend it if you have to, but while they do their appointments at Bethesda. But I, like yourselves, I'm sure, am grateful to organizations like that have stood up, that answered the call to take care of that population that so desperately needs our help. And it still does, even though as we talked about earlier, the 2 wars are dwindling down. We still have some that are severely wounded that need our help, and their caregivers need our help, and we should never forget about. And oh, by the way, even today, there's probably 170,000 servicemen and women currently forwardly deployed in 140 different countries around the globe right now, potentially in harm's way. So, you know, you wounded, ill, and injured still come at a moment's notice, even in the current environment, whether the wars are dwindling down or not. So we cannot forget about them. And we never did in Soldier for Life, nor has the Army, nor has any of the other services.
Stand by 1 second. My lights went out. I'll edit this out, but I don't know what happened. I've got this automatic light thing going on. There we go. I don't know what's going on there. It's weird. It just went out.
Are we still recording? Or are we on? That's good.
I don't know. Did you notice it when the light went out, or okay? No. Yeah, because my camera kind of stayed lit up still. So okay. Yeah. So you retired from the Army, Colonel Adam Rocke, U.S. Army retired. So talk a little bit about what you've been doing since your retirement. I know what you're doing now. We can kind of go into your current role at Hiring Our Heroes, and maybe talk a little bit about your transition. I mean, people always like to kind of hear the transition story, and
yeah,
and you know, I think it's always very unique to each individual. I mean, I had my own a unique transition story when I first left active duty years ago, and then I transitioned and stayed in the reserves, and then did a bunch of active duty post 9/11, and did several transitions during that time frame that were all unique in their own right. So talk a little bit about that.
Let's talk about transition. No matter who you are, whether you're Adam Rocke or somebody else, doesn't matter. That is a time of uncertainty, isn't it, Joe? It's just, no matter if you serve 3 years or 34 years like myself, and you know, you have just been rowing hard in uniform, and giving it your all, almost to the very last day. And you just, it is hard to slow down, to realize that transition is a process, and take the time necessary to prepare yourself, right? And obviously that's what led me to what I'm doing today, and we'll talk about that. But I will tell anybody who's listening that wants to, cares about any advice that I have to give, it's probably worth about a cup of coffee, if anything. But treat transition as your next mission, right? If you, just as you would any combat patrol that you're on, wherever you're at, whether I did overseas, we prepared ourselves appropriately to go out on this mission, right? We gave ourselves a briefing before we went on this mission, and we never left the FOB, the Forward Operating Base, unprepared, right? And I tell people, don't leave the installation that you're from, active duty, Guard, Reserve, doesn't matter, unprepared. Take the time to do that. The TAP process, Transition Assistance Program, the Army calls it Soldier for Life TAP, and I'm proud of that name. I helped the Secretary of the Army decide that day. He asked me, and I told him, and here it is. But don't leave unprepared, right? And there are programs in place to prepare you as best you possibly can, and programs like yours, the Microsoft, Software Systems Academy, and Hiring Our Heroes that are there as well to help fill the gaps. They have necessary programs out there, but they've got to prepare. I'd also tell people though, you've got to figure out what your goals are. What is it that you want to do though post transition? Because if you don't figure that out, you will flounder, all right, and then you will be unsuccessful. Then you can be one of those statistics we talked about before. Homeless, stressed, whatever on unemployment, and you don't want to do that. So we want to close the gap as close as we possibly can, so that when you get handed that DD 214 and you leave the gate, it is into employment. And in our cases, yours and my organizations, we preach about meaningful employment with pay and benefits that were commensurate to what you had while you served in uniform. So my transition story was no different. Even as the director of Soldiers for Life, I had lots of contacts. I had a great network, and I think that's what I relied on. But I didn't have a resume. I really didn't use LinkedIn. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. The good part is I knew where I wanted to do it. And don't laugh at me, but I wanted to stay in the National Capital Region. And you're going to go, why, right? Especially when I told you my wife's from Washington, right, where it's beautiful out there.
I love it out there.
I know. It had a purpose for me, honestly. My wife has a job. She's a preschool teacher. She loved it, right? My daughter was in college. She's now an elementary school teacher right here in Northern Virginia. She loves it. I have twins that are in the college right here in a Virginia-based school and a high school senior. So that's why we stayed here, and I like it right now, and we're enjoying growing. But you've got to have goals. You got to figure out where you want to go. And then the third thing I tell people, Joe, is you got to figure out how much money you want to make, all right? Because that's all going to determine what line of work you go into. What can you live with? What are you trying to shoot for? Because if you're trying, lots of colonels come out of the Army, they think they're going to go right in to be the CEO of some sort of company, and that's just not reality unless you start your own. And I wish you luck, and you be an entrepreneur, and hopefully you succeed and not fail. But many think that they're going to go into that and making $1 million a year. The reality is just, that's 1 in a million, basically, probably less than that. But where is it you want to go, how much you want to make, and what is it you want to do? I was very fortunate. I was hired by a small IT company who we know well, both of us, called Fastport. And I'm gratefully indebted to Bill McClellan, Brad Bentley, the president, and Jim Ray for taking me on. And I was their veteran advocate. I didn't know IT, but I tried to advocate for the resources and tools that they created. So I stayed within this space, right? So I found my passion. I generally knew where I wanted to go. They allowed me to work from the same room that I'm in right now. I got to do what I wanted to do with them, right? And we grew together. And I decided it was time for me to leave. None of the bad terms. I love them to this day. And I went to run my own nonprofit. I didn't set it up as part of SAP. It's called NS2, which we help train groups of about 20 person cohorts in IT, SAP related IT. I did that for a year, but I personally felt, Joe, that something was missing. It was my ability to affect a larger outcome of that. And that's why when Eric Eversole, the president of Hiring Heroes, approached and gave me the opportunity to come in, again, probably follow my brother's footsteps, Chuck Hodges, who was the previous senior director. You can see a trend. I just keep following Chuck around the battlefield now. But I came in to do this mission as the senior director of events and programs, to work alongside great people like Marnie Holder, who we will dearly care about, and Lindsay Toplesky, the director of corporate fellowship program, and a host of other people here. But they're all like-minded. They're all passionate. They're a mix of veteran military spouses and just people who are patriots who want to volunteer to help do what we've been talking about, is connect military community talent, I'll just call it that, into corporate America, which I know corporate America wants it, corporate America needs it. They just haven't completely figured out how to connect the two, and that's what organizations like ours do, is we connect those two together. So my transition story back to it, I'm on my third try at a job, but I think I found a home right here. It's in the nonprofit space, but we are making an impact, and that's what makes me feel good about what I do.
Awesome. So let's go into Hiring Our Heroes in a bit more detail. I've been, connected to the organization. Actually, I remember sitting down with the person that launched it. I think it was the maybe February of 2011,
Yeah.
and an individual and a fellow Marine, Kevin Schmiegel. We
Yeah.
had lunch in DC at the Army Navy Club. It was pretty fancy. I didn't know what I didn't know. I was kind of felt like an imposter in there, but but we had lunch in the fancy environs there, and he talked about this Hiring Our Heroes organization that they were going to kick off and start to do events and all these sorts of things. I was at Microsoft probably about 3, 4 months at the time, and I was like, sounds great. I don't have a whole lot of money to give you right now, but I'd love to support you as best I can. So I've been kind of partnering as best I can from the Microsoft perspective all these years, and it's evolved and continues to do great work in the space. So kind of go into what are the primary efforts going on there at Hiring Our Heroes, and where do you see it continuing to evolve and making the great impact that you're making on the service members and veterans? Because some people listening to this probably know little about Hiring Our Heroes.
Yeah, no, it is a great organization, and our same battle bud, Kevin Schmiegel there, who started off, and then my current battle bud, Eric Eversole, for taking on, and Eric's been here going on 8 years and has really grown this. Hiring Our Heroes, it was established in 2011, apologize. It's a grassroots effort, right, that helps diversify those corporations across America, small, medium, or large companies with veteran talent is really what we do. We connect the two, and it has grown. I think back in the time when 2011, handful, maybe a couple handfuls of people were doing this under the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Hiring Our Heroes Foundation. And today, I think Eric and I were on the phone the other day. I think he's nearly got 75 people and growing, right? We just did some interviews today to help one of our initiatives called the Career Connectors, which are really a concierge service, initial entry point. They do the triage of a serviceman or woman coming into the pipeline, and then we help them, provide them resources so that the output is better, so that when they come to the Microsofts of the world or other companies, they're just more prepared, and the employer is looking at a really solid candidate that everything's ready to go, and hopefully the match is made. But bottom line is we've grown over the years. And our programs have grown too. So we're a national organization, right, with national reach. We've got corporate fellowship program, right? Those are those fellows, the part of the SkillBridge program, which I helped write the policy for under the Army, called the Career Skills Program, which allows those that are transitioning out the last 180 days of service to attend a SkillBridge program if their commander approves it, right? And allows them at no pay, so no cost to a company, to do an internship basically for a 12-week period of time. And there's some leadership development throughout that 12-week period of time. And hopefully that company that they intern with gives them an offer at the end of that. And we've had tremendous success. As you well know, we're about 92% offer rate with about 93%, $93,000 mean average. I mean, and we'll probably talk about the COVID, but it is telling that corporate America is looking for military talent, because during the last 9 or 10 months since March, since this pandemic hit, we thought we were going to see a tremendous decline in those companies that were going to take on our fellows, but the opposite happened. And thanks to Lindsay Toplewski and all those program managers that we have across the United States, that are out there, that made the calls, that assured kept our relationships and partnerships going with these companies. I mean, we placed in the last year, nearly 1,500 fellows into companies. I think we're up to 450, maybe 500 companies, if my number's right, different companies, so they recognize, even remotely, that your talent is that valuable to us, even that we can continue to do that. So, I mean, that's just showing you the growth and the depth and the outcomes that we have. And our plan is to continue to grow and develop that corporate fellowship program. We're looking for other places to plant a program manager under the fellowship program, Huntsville, Alabama, South Carolina, and some other locations in the very near future in 2021. So that fellowship program is one. The one that you and I were touching on before the call is our career summits, which, as you know, Marnie Holder has just been instrumental in that over the past 4 years to grow those, right? So obviously the pandemic hit and we had to come to a screeching halt. And I know that's really important to companies like yourselves and the rest of them, is to do that face to face out of those installations, to look the servicemen or women in the eye, to kind of get an opportunity to talk to them, to look at the resume, to really mentor them on the spot. And that came to a halt. But we pivoted though, right? Hiring Heroes doesn't just sit stagnant. We pivoted and we went to the virtual. We used our digital resources. We created the virtual career community, which you've been part of. And I'm really proud of that. We had a lot of sessions. It's kind of like being an anchor a couple times a week of hosting a show, but if you will, a session. But we continue to educate them on the resources, not only our resources, but other resources like the MSSA and so on and so forth. We continue to give them content. We can continue to give them industry focus to hone the servicemen and women into some of the industries with tremendous opportunities. So the digital pivot happened, and it happened well, and we're going to continue that into 2021. But into 2021, we've got an aggressive strategy for the in-person summits. As we mentioned briefly, the plan right now, Joe, is to do them in person. Time will only tell, and the conditions on the ground, right? These base commanders get a vote, clearly. But my friend Brigadier General Milford Beagle and I had an office call about a month and a half ago. He's the commanding general of Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I drove the Toyota Tundra truck down there that's all camouflaged. It says Hiring Heroes. It's a great marketing thing. I love that truck. By the way, it sits right there. That truck is sitting right there. It rides really well. Thanks to Toyota. But I drove it down to South Carolina and I met with Biggs, Brigadier General Biggs, and he assured me he does want to bring a transition summit in person in March 16th, and down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Right now, I will obviously caveat, and I think anybody listening would understand that the conditions on the ground could change. But right now, the agreement is that Hiring Our Heroes will go down there and do it in person. Now, and that hasn't changed yet. Depending on the conditions, though, even if we do have to scale it back a little, we would like to do something in person, Joe, of some sort. Maybe there's a hybrid approach. It's a little bit of virtual. It's a little bit in person. It might be something like we did at JVLM, less employers, more spread out, less job seekers on a time schedule, by appointments. Who knows? Okay. But we did take all those considerations. And it was successful, and we can still be successful. We might have to do some sort of boutique type events in 2021, smaller scale, fewer employers, but more frequently maybe. But we will. Marnie is thinking about that. We have thought about that. Only time will tell. But we've got 27 full scale career summers scheduled for 2021. Right, and then we have 6 expos as well. Remember the sports expos that we do as well. So what is that? That's 33 in-person events currently scheduled, and I assure you, you would agree. These are great events. If you're a transitioning service member or a veteran or military spouse, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Hundreds of great employers with looking for your talent, with opportunities, and just a chance to network and meet and greet, and I think it'll be good. But we will have to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to say, and being a Marine Corps, a retiree, the Army's been up front and leading the way in transition, and it's probably a testament to your time at the Soldier for Life organization, how you organized this back in, as you said, 2011, where that unemployment rate and those transition issues that were really impacting soldiers and all the services, that from unemployment, from suicide rates and homelessness and all that people came to the table to solve these problems, and it's been a great partnership between the services, veteran service organizations, and corporate America. I mean, let's be honest, that the corporations have stepped up and built programs to help folks transition and to provide them with great employment opportunities. And like I said, thanks to people like you and a lot of other individuals at Hiring Our Heroes and a lot of other organizations that are doing great work every day. So, and with that, and we look forward to engaging this year, and I think our team enjoys coming and being in person, and as you said, kind of eye to eye and speaking to transition service members, and hopefully, turn on a light or two of folks that kind of just need a bit coaching and mentoring as they transition. So for you personally, like you've been doing this a while and you did it while still in uniform. I mean, what's kind of the most enjoyable thing that you find about being in this transition space and having an impact on these service members?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. The most enjoyable thing is there's two parts. First, getting to speak to guys like you. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. That's really enjoyable. The people that I get to work with are so passionate, like you, and like just the people in their space. They wore the cloth of the uniform. They're just remissioned in a suit. Outside of uniform, we all are rowing together, and we all are there for the same purpose, right? To help those who have served and those who are going to serve find their passion and meaningful employment. That's a lot of fun. But I will say, just prior to getting on this call, we did an interview, Marnie Holder and I, with the young gentleman, right, and for an opportunity that we've created in Harmon Hill. And the reason I tell you about that is the 30-minute phone call with this young guy was why I do this, because he's a staff sergeant who's looking for his next opportunity in life. He's in uniform, and I mean, he's been to combat. Ironically, he's serving in the same unit that I was in 3 times and deployed with right now. He's a cavalryman. I was an infantryman, but he's one of the sister battalions in the same brigade. That's the reason why I love the stories. I love to communicate with these folks. I love to help them as best I can. Listen, I can't guarantee, nor can you, that they're going to get it hired by Microsoft or by any of these companies. But I'm going to give them the best opportunity by providing the resources, my mentorship, what I've done wrong, some best practices, connecting with great folks, do whatever I can to put them in a position to take care of themselves and their families. And I know that those hiring managers out there in corporate America are looking for great talent. I just want you to step up to the plate and give them an opportunity. Maybe not a job, give them an opportunity for an interview. That's really all I ask, right? Bring them in, all right? Give them an opportunity for an interview. And if you get to sit across the table like you and I are doing right now, basically, and that veteran gets to tell their story, right? Get to really explain not just their hard skills, not just the infantry skills I got in combat, but how about all those soft skills that I learned that you just can't get out of somebody that you're on a college campus right now. I think that's what's going to make your company that much better. They have values. They have the ability to think. They can problem solve. They're decision makers. They're doers. They're trainable. All these things that a veteran is, or military spouse, and just give them an opportunity. So if you give an opportunity for an interview, I think that the servicemen or women will win the day, and you'll hire them. So that's really what fuels me, Joe.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I'm with you on that. It's always awesome to see that young enlisted service member. You can contribute a little bit to their success, and then you see them out there doing great things when they leave that uniform behind. So
Yeah.
well, great. So before we kind of wrap things up here, any words of wisdom from Adam Rocke for the folks out there?
I do. Not necessarily words of wisdom, but how about if I left you with a call to action? And anyone watching, I say there are 2 calls to action. The first one that is near and dear to our heart is hire a veteran, right? If you're a corporation out there and you're looking for that next great talent, a veteran or military spouse is that talent. You're not doing it because you have pity on them. You're doing it because it's good for business. It just makes good business sense for all the reasons we talked about. Just giving them the opportunity. And I will talk about one other initiative. It's called Warrior Call. It's about stopping veteran suicide, which is really near and dear to our heart. Again, I go back to Leroy Petrie, my battle bud. And I don't know if you or any of the viewers know, Leroy Petrie are close. I was the company commander for Leroy Petrie, not when he earned the Medal of Honor, but before that. So Leroy and I are close friends. But Leroy has an initiative that is called Warrior Call. Is to take a call or make a call, right? Call your battle buds out there. Pick up the phone call and see how they're doing. Just make a call. have a conversation. And I think if we all did that, our battle buds on a weekly basis or so, just pick up the phone, make that call, or take a call. Never not take that call. Have a conversation. I think will reduce the veteran suicide, and obviously, we don't want any more veteran suicide. So those are my two requests. How's that?
Awesome. And yeah, that's great. Anything you want to say about 2020?
Yeah, 2020 is going to be great, right? It's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. I am. I'm looking forward to traveling. I'm looking forward to no mask. I'm looking forward to getting out there with you. If I have to wear a mask, it doesn't matter. It's okay. I can do all this social distancing. But hiring our heroes is we're growing. We're not going anywhere. We have pivoted. We will pivot again. We thoroughly enjoyed the partnership we have with Microsoft, but all those other corporations out there. And we're all in this together, right? We're going to do this. The veterans are still transitioning. 200,000 servicemen and women will transition every year, whether it's a pandemic or no pandemic, right? And we want them to go back to wherever it is they want to go and be successful. So that's why we're in this, and we're in this together. So it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be a great year. I'm excited, and I'm excited to see you, Joe, personally in person. All right.
Same here. Well, great. Well, hey, it was pleasure to have you here today with me. I appreciate your time and all your words of wisdom. And for those of you that haven't met Adam, when you get to an event, there's, and go up and introduce yourself. There's not a nicer person in this space than Colonel Adam Rocke. So it's a pleasure to be your friend and to be your colleague in this work that we do. And let's continue doing it, because I like you said, I look forward to 2021 and continuing to do this, this great work. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thanks for what you're doing and your friendship too as well. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. We are out.